Yo, it's Guido coming at you with a tank review, my friends. Check it out. We finally have information on the 4th chapter of Battle Pass / Marathon, where you can get yourself a brand new Czech Tier 8 TD. The first Czechoslovakian TD. It's a premium, and it's got a lot of numbers. We got word salad on this thing. What is it? It's the ShPTK-TVP 100. And you will notice it kind of looks like it's got the TVP hole down there, which is more or less what it is, with a kind of TD idea, very thin open turret, and a little pew-pew gun, 250 alpha. But we'll get into the details of the tank in just a little bit. You can see it here in the garage. On my Sheriff account, I had to play it on the Sheriff account. Unfortunately, that's where they gave us access to the content. So that colored a little bit of my games. We'll get to some gameplay, but the first thing I want to do before we get into the tank itself is we're going to break down the 4th chapter / marathon / experimental thing Wargaming's done here. We basically have a marathon that is tied into more of a battle pass kind of idea. So the old thing where you would figure out how many thousands of experience you had to get a day in the 10 days it took to get a marathon tank, marathon premium, has been turned into a 10-day 40 not chapter, but 40 level or whatever, 4th chapter of Battle Pass with all those mechanics. So let's get into that. All right, you can get this article on the main page there, either NA or EU or Asia, wherever you are, you'll be able to find this same article, or more or less the same article. So Queen of the Night is the 4th chapter. It's going to go from May 12th to May 23rd, so basically 10 days. Remember, the 23rd in North America is useless because it's at like 6 a.m. that it turns off, so helpful if you're driving through the night trying to get this thing done, but not helpful if you think the 23rd or the whole day of the 23rd you can use. You cannot. All right, so it's Queen of the Night there. So it is basically another Battle Pass chapter. You'll be able to buy the improved side of it in order to get more goodies. You will get goodies along the 40 levels of it, and then if you get to the 40th, you get the tank for free, or, this is what's kind of interesting here and a little bit different, you'll be able to buy the rest of the levels with gold like you can on the regular Battle Pass. There's not any info that I saw in there on how much per level. Is it 250 gold or something like that? I think normally. I don't know if they're going to increase this. What that means is you can go through this basic kind of marathon idea on Battle Pass and then buy the tank with gold you already have, vice going to get a discount in the shop. That's my understanding of how this is going to work. So we'll come down here. Time limited chapter. Let's refresh the challenge format. They discussed that a little bit about how they've done it a little bit different. This is kind of interesting. You know, during the launch of an additional chapter, testing several new mechanics, one of which is the complexity of the progression system for players. So I don't know if they got feedback from the old marathons or they just wanted to change things up, but they have done that for whatever reason. The chapter's progression value is calculated based on all sources of earning Battle Pass points. Remember that you can get Battle Pass points on your daily missions. They're really kind of hard over advertising that right here. I don't really know why. I think everybody kind of knows that, but I think they're trying to let people know that you need to use all the sources of Battle Pass points to include using the special vehicles. Now here's good and bad on that. If you've already done Battle Pass, which you probably have been, you've accrued points on your vehicles. They're not going to reset. Now, one thing people have been doing, especially with their Tier 6s, is going right up to the 100-point limit but not going over, because remember, you get an extra 15 when you finish a Tier 6. You get extra points on other tiers, but it's more bang for your buck at Tier 7 because you're getting a 15% bonus right there at the 100 points. So a lot of people have gone right up to that and waited. I didn't bother with that. I just kept on trucking. But that was one way to kind of game it just a little bit so that you were able to, once you played that tank and you maxed it out, you'd automatically drop 15 more on that bad boy. So people have done that. So that is a true, it was kind of an idea. Nobody could really prove it. There was verbiage, but that is what's in here now. That's how it works. They do mention the 3 tanks that are on the Battle Pass right now. They give you extra points, but if you really were hardcore into those and used those to build up for the Battle Pass that already happened, the 3 chapters, you may not have points left over on those. So kind of depends on where you are. I don't think it matters too much overall what tank you use, but obviously the Battle Pass tanks and then gaming the system. I say gaming the system, it's rational. You're getting as many points as you can. With the tier 6s, is going to get you through it faster. There is no information here on how many points each level requires. I'm assuming it's the same 50 as it was before, but that is an ass assumption. All right, my friends. Come down here. Works the same way as the main chapters for a limited period of time. That's the 10 days. There's the tanks. Remember, it's the Leopard, Kron, and 110E4 this time. Daily missions and bonus points. They talk about that. We'll be rewarded with additional Battle Pass points when the point limit for vehicles has been reached. It's all the same mechanics. There's nothing new right there. All point limits that apply throughout the season also apply to the additional chapters, so those have not been changed. They talk about the daily missions. All right, what are you going to get reward-wise? The base rewards are right here, and the improved rewards are right here. My mouse has not been on that screen the whole time, has it? All right, as I'm pointing at stuff. Excellent. Some premium time. It doesn't look like we have any extra bounty equipment coming up. This looks like regular equipment. There is some nice credit bonus things. A few bonds. Looks like 240 math in public right there. So extra goodies. Really what you're trying to do is get the tank. Now, if you buy the improved, you will also be working towards a 3D skin, which looks like this right here. So there's the 3D skin. Got extra doodads on it, machine gun on top, and jerry cans, and this, that, and the other. All right, so that's how you get the 3D skin. You've got to buy the improved pass. 2,500 gold in the pass. So right off the bat, if you're buying the improved pass, you're 2,500 gold into it. So that's kind of it's kind of interesting. But you don't have to buy that to get the tank, just the 3D style. That's what you get when you finish it. When you finish the 40 and you've bought the improved pass, you get the style. If you just do the standard thing, you get the tank. However you want to roll it. All right, we're going to break down the numbers a little while later, but that is basically it. It is Battle Pass-esque. It is Marathon-esque. 40 levels at 50 points, but only 10 days. So you've got to get through 4 levels a day, math in public. Seems doable. It's a bit. That is a bit. I mean, you are going to play quite a bit to do that. But what's very interesting, and from what I can tell, is when you get near the end, you're going to be able to buy the rest of the levels and get yourself the tank. So how much gold do you want to chuck at it is really the question at the end of the day right there. Or / how much can you get through. All right, let's review the tank and then look at some gameplay. Right, here it is back in the garage. Like I said, it's a TVP hull. It does have a turret. The turret does turn 360 degrees. The armor is basically nil, although it is slightly better than the Scorpion G. Let's take a look at the comparison tool and some of the stats on this tank. So I did not know what to compare this thing to be quite honest. It's a fast, soft-skinned TD with a turret, and you might immediately say Scorpion G, and that's a fair comparison to some extent, but the Scorpion G does 490 alpha, whereas this thing does 250. The Scorpion G has a 12-second reload, and this thing has a 5-second. If we drop down to the DPM, the Scorpion G loses out at 24, and this thing sits at 2897, which seems high, but if you go to the Turtle and the TS5, both of those are slightly higher, and the Turtle relatively significantly at almost 200 or 150. I also chucked the KPZ-07 on there because this thing is a little bit like a medium, kind of like the Scorpion can do. And you might go, Guido, you have 2 mobile and 2 armored immobile. The Turtle and the TS5 are 2 of the best premium TDs out there, and they are casemates 100%. I think the Scorpion is the closest corollary, but it's different because it has the big stick and not the little stick. It's a weird thing. So I threw the KPZ on there because the TVP dude will be able to flex to that medium role on occasion if you need it, especially late game moving around the map, or just you need to push in and kill guys out. It's a hard one. If you guys have a better one, chuck it down there in the comments, something to compare it to. So that's what I did. 250 alpha. This is probably one of its biggest strengths. 270 penetration on its standard round. That is a bunch at tier 8. So in terms of making credits, as long as you're shooting, tier 8s, the softer tier 9s or lower tiers, you're going to make all kinds of credits. Although it takes a lot of shells to do so. So you're spending the money on each shell and you're only getting the payoff of 250 alpha, but you do have a really high pin. That's very different than the KPZ that's sitting at 205. The other TDs are in the 220 to 240 regime, so that's very interesting for the tank here. This tank makes a lot of odd trade-offs. Odd's probably the wrong word, but fairly significant trade-offs, and comes out looking really good, but the execution is not quite that good. It's decent, but not quite as good as it looks, in my opinion. Rate of fire is high. Gun loading at 5.18 is faster than all of them except for the KPZ, and again, obviously that's a medium, not a TD, although plenty of people play it like a TD. Gun traverse is okay with the turret. The turret actually moves around pretty decently. It's not that slow glacial move of the Scorpion G. Only -6 gun depression. That is a little bit painful, especially in the places you're going to try to play TDs on a lot of maps where you're going to knock a tree down or use a bush. A lot of those places require you to kind of do some back slope work to get totally hidden in the bush, and the -6 will be fiddly. It'll bother you a little bit at times. Look at that aiming time at 1.25. Holy cow. Let me make sure I don't have something going on with this real quick. Nope, that is its time. All right. Standard time right there. 0.29 on the dispersion, which is Scorpion G levels. The hidden stats, or not the hidden stats, but the whatever they are. Soft stats from terrain, from moving, from turning the turret, from shooting, all that are not bad, but they're not great at the same time. I'll be honest, it did not feel like a 0.29 tank to me. Scorpion kind of feels the same way. I'm not sure if there's other hidden stats in there, but it just doesn't really feel as a 0.29 would feel, in my opinion. All right, the turtle at 0.35 seems better overall. But, you know, there you have it. Don't know what to say about it. Hit points are fairly low at 1150. We're talking Scorpion G levels. That's not a lot of a hit point pool. So when you do swing to medium roll, that can hurt you because you can't take many hits. Interestingly, the turret and the hull have some armor, 65. That's virtually none for most of the tanks out there. But in terms of HE pen, that gets to the point where you can start to not get penned constantly by every HE shell thrown at you. Now, it is still going to obviously be a problem, but there you have it. Speaking of HE, the gun on this thing, or the HE round of this thing, is 100 pen. That's a lot. It's a kind of a strange thing. Mobility is pretty good. We're sitting at 55, not quite as fast as a Scorpion G, but its specific power, and where is it? There it is. Specific power is 21, which is better than Scorpion G. So it kind of gets up and moving faster than Scorpion G does, but it doesn't have the top end. I didn't run it with the turbo. That might be an option if you really want to get around the map quite a bit. Traverse is decent, and then we come down here. The camo is actually pretty good at 16, and we've got 370 view range, which is on par with most of those things, or better. Not quite as good, obviously, as a medium. The KPZ has 390, but mediums tend to have better view range than a lot of the TDs. So what do we have here? Man, it's a hard one. We have a very mobile, very fast shooting, high DPM, low alpha, no armor tank. So it's going to want to stand off and pew-pew without being seen as much as possible, or at least not take any return fire as much as possible. It can swing to a medium/light roll mid to late game when a lot of the guns are gone and you need to get up and move. It is more flexible than, say, a Turtle or a TS5. It can get around the battle, but of course it's not going to bounce things like those. You're not going to do much assault TD stuff with this guy. I played it a little too aggressively early on. I do have one of my games and one of True Voodoo's who graciously allowed me to show it, and I'll show you a couple of the ways this thing can be played and some of its strengths. All right. There you go on that. Let's take a quick look, and this is not going to take much time at all. There you go. That's the armor profile. just shoot at it. I guess avoid the mantlet-ish. It's not that great. Maybe don't shoot the gun. That's it. Don't hit the gun. If you can block shells like a lightsaber with the gun, then you have some armor. Otherwise, you don't. Like I said, though, it's enough to stop some of the HE shells from just auto-blapping you constantly. At 65, a lot of those tier 8 ones are sitting in that 30, 40, 50, 60 range right there. All right, that's enough of that right there. How did I do? Well, mixed bag really. I only played 11 games for you, 55%. So one game, one more win. Yeah, 6 and 5. So there you go. Could have easily been 5 and 6. My hits came up, and I think I did that largely on my last game. I'm going to show you the last game I played. I played 10, and I wasn't really high on the tank. And then I said, well, let's just play one more, and I put food on it. Let's just see if I can get a decent map and get a little better feel for it. Because I had just watched True's video that I'm going to use, his replay, and went, all right, I mean, I'm not at his level, but maybe I can make this thing work better. Because I was going to kind of come down hard on the thing. And I had a much better game, which increased my hits to 74. It feels like this thing should be closer to 80, and that's a lot probably my problem, not the tank's problem. But I just get this feeling that the .29 did not work as well as a .29 should. Low sample size, folks, 11 battles. Damage ratio, destruction's okay. Look at that armor use, none. I mean, it just doesn't have any. Not surprising. This 1520 was sitting at 1,000 at about 8 or 9 battles. It took the last 2 battles of an okay result to even drag it up to 1520. That's extremely low. I would expect this, if I continue to play it, to be closer to 2,000 like my tier 8 stuff should be, but yeah, it was painful. Assistance 102. It's just not the assist monster. Maybe late game with some tracks and things like that, you could bring that up, or potentially using it in more of a medium scout role late game. I didn't tend to survive much at 27.27, so I wasn't really able to explore a lot of that. And we'll talk about some of that on the replay. So, very, very average for me, or even below average, but a low sample size. But I think it does have some definite possibilities. It does have some definite possibilities. Here's how I was running it. I had a rammer. I was using an IA and a GLD. All right. No vents, folks, because it's open top. So that's one thing you have to deal with. The crew is okay. It's not actually a sheriff crew. It's a crew I built because it didn't come with the super crew, and I didn't move a crew over from something else. So I just tossed a bunch of books at it. They're good. They're sitting at, what, 4 skills or 3 skills working on their 4th, depending on which one. So good enough to have most of the skills that you want on the tank right there. With that setup, though, that being said, and I was using bounty stuff here with the rammer and GLD and all, and I got food on there. Look at this DPM. I cranked it up to 3577 with my setup. Aim time of a second, dispersion at 0.26. It felt a lot better on this last game when I added food. I think food just makes a huge difference on any tank. This thing, I think it brought it to another level, to be quite honest. There's probably a better setup in here. I don't know if GLD is really the thing to use. Maybe you chuck optics on it, or a turbo. Turbo to get around better. Maybe chuck optics to increase the view range so you can do a little bit of your own spotting, that kind of stuff. Those are definitely possibilities on the equipment in there. If you have a better setup you're thinking of, let me know down in the comments. All right, there you go. So you have a general idea of how you're going to get it. You have a general idea of what the tank is and what it's like. Let's take a look at some replay. All right, this is my game, the one I was talking about, the last one. Like I said, I had to do this in the sheriff account, so I got YOLO'd a lot. You know, that sounds like an excuse, but it did happen. Anytime you get forward in any kind of sheriff tank and they feel like they can just push you and kill you, they'll do that for the 250 and die. So it actually kind of plays into the sheriff account idea that if you can stand off, which is what I'm going to be able to do here. You'll see that I'm running the rammer. I've got the IA and I've got the GLD, and the rammer and GLD, I think I called them bounty, but they're actually the bond, or the bond stuff improved. Running food, 40 on the AP, and I've got 13. I'll have to wait till this gets going. I think I can I do that here? Yeah. It's got 330 on its heat, and there's that 100 millimeter on its HE. I don't use any HE here, so I won't be able to show you that. I think True might on his video when we get to that on the second video. So we're here on Steeps, Himmelsdorf, Steepsville. I'm going to head over to the east side, and I'm looking for the hill, or looking to get up on the hill and get some shots. And what ends up happening here, the guy was asking me if the turret went around, so I did that for him. Yes, the turret does go 360 all the way around. We'll come up here and start building our nest, like every good TD player does. Not that I'm a good TD player, but there you have it. I'm still going to build the nest. I'm going to pretend I am one. We have the object pushes way down in there. You can see that we're on a tier 9 and tier 8 battle here. The object just YOLOs in. I didn't notice that actually on the replay till just now. I didn't notice it during the game anyway, that he just... So we spot them at a tier 9 right off the bat. I see it happening, and I go, well, you know what? I just can't do this. So this is not the tank you want here playing hold down. It has no turret armor, and it only has -6 gun depression. So once somebody starts seeing something that lightly skinned and that doesn't have a lot of trade power in terms of one shot, because you're only taking 250 out of them, if you low roll it's 200, you're going to get pushed and killed. They're going to accept your 250 and thump you for 5 or 6 and move on, right? Or even for 400. So I'm going to fall all the way back here. And here is where this kind of tank just really shines. I'm going to build another nest here. Going to knock this tree down forward, try to give me a little more cover in that direction, potentially. And I'm going to back up here and drop this one. I really would, yeah, I'm trying to get it downhill a little bit. There we go. And just get as much cover as possible. And now these guys are starting to make themselves available. Look at that zoom. Zip, boom. So we thumped this guy. This is where the gun finally started feeling comfortable to me with the food. It's a little bit surprising. That was just not a great shot. I take some hasty shots. I'm a little bit curious if I'm going to get spotted, but I'm not. Got another tree in the way, so we thump him. I just courtesy back up. But you can see if you're able to just stand in and not move, look how fast your shots are coming up. Just boom, 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 boom. Take a sneaky shot at him. We will have a scout come up in the middle. I am going to get spotted here in a little bit. Trying to figure out how we can just keep shaving off pieces. So we got a 274, a 260, a 260, a 285. So we've high rolled 4 times in a row. That is amazing. There's a low roll. And another low roll. There you go. Now we're getting back into where we belong, right? But look how long it takes to whittle down that Skoda T50 at 250 alpha, right? That just takes a while. That's light tank levels of alpha right there. So the A's coming up. We'll just keep taking chunks out of him. But again, he's got so many hit points that I finally get spotted. And I take a hasty shot there and I eat one from the turtle. It's actually the even 90 that's got me lit right there, unfortunately. So he limits my ability to push forward too much. Probably should have looked for a shot on him. I get thumped and I get lucky. I actually somehow bounce, angle, or potentially armor not hit or something like that. And that 140 or sorry 120 is way back there. So we're beating up our shield. Guys pushing in, looking for that lower plate. And I've cranked it up to 3,000. So we have just shot and shot and shot. And this is essentially the kind of thing you want to do with this tank in order to crank out the damage on it. If you can get in a place and shoot and shoot and shoot, you will be able to crank up the damage, like I said there. Shoot this guy on the side. There we go. Decent accuracy. I did press 2. Probably don't need it on the side of the turret right there, but I'm flinging the heat at this point. Was able to do quite a bit of damage with just the AP at 270 pen. That's really great. Probably a little bit late maybe on getting on my horse on this one, but then we have the guard coming in. I'm going to get lit on that one. He was definitely close enough. While the guard is moving, I am going to risk this. I could get snapped while he is tracking, while he's moving, but he's going to have a much higher dispersion. Now that he's stopped, I want to be careful about popping out here. He is moving a bit. Fortunately, he's not looking at me. I don't get the damage, but I do get the spotting. We'll spin around. Turtle is still sitting there. I'm at 3,500. Our TS5 is potentially going to push up. Looks like 2 of their tanks went back. There's 1 unaccounted for. We're looking for the turtle. And the guys that won the other flank are wrapping around. It's pretty much a rout at this point. That was poorly aimed. I could have got a pen on that if I'd have aimed a little bit better. There you go. The heat's just buttering through the 330 pen, even for the poor turtle. We take care of him, and now we're going to turn around and head on in here. But I don't get any more damage. So 39, 29, 21 assists. Can you do that with any tank? Absolutely, you can. The cool thing about this one is just the amount of firepower or the amount of DPM it has, if it can translate into damage in the game. And that's one of those situations right there where I was able to do that. All right, let's take a look at Truce, because he's able to translate even more of his firepower into damage on the next one. All right, once again, thanks to True for allowing me to use this, graciously letting me use his replay. Here he is in his ShPTK-TVP. He's in a Tier 8 and Tier 7 battle, so he's top tier, which is nice for him. He is also running food. That's where I got the idea. I watched the video and said, well, the replay said, let's try the food. So I think that really made a big difference. You didn't notice it, but he actually hasn't done his, he actually did not pay for his field mods. I did do that on my tank. I didn't show you what those were, but you can take a look at those. So I did have it modded out although I didn't use any of the actual specific mods. All right, I've never seen this before. I didn't realize this was possible. I learned a big thing right here. This is a really interesting spot. He's up against the wall. I'm just going to pause it here. I want you guys to watch this. Another reason I wanted to show everybody this video here. It almost feels like a secret spot. I think I've heard people talk about it. I didn't really understand how it worked, but here you go. He's knocked those two trees down. And if he backs up, he's also got this bush. Now, if he gets into this bush, that's not going to stop people from seeing him if he fires. But it will stop if he backs up a little bit from them seeing him automatically as his rear end comes out from behind these two trees. So watch how he uses this. Very interesting. We got a CS44 and some other guys. We'll get some customers here in a minute. Thing about True that you'll watch and is different than my gameplay, / it's better than my gameplay, is how patient and careful he is. Watch his aiming in here. He just kind of searches around. Has a nice touch on the thing. Takes a shot there. And he's able to just keep shooting from this bush. I don't know, is this kind of a broken bush? Meh. On the one hand, you like that you can figure these things out and use them to your advantage. On the other hand, they can be in certain ways broken. So I don't know where I sit on that. Look at this. He's just very careful. That guy just shifted just in time to not eat a shot. Well, look at him. So he's picking at the turret ring. Picking at the turret ring. Comes in, gets the light, sees them, pulls back to where he can't be seen. There is some spaced armor on that turret right there on that 105-100. Picking at the turret ring, just right in there. Look at that. And this guy's like, oh my gosh, this sucks. I'm getting out of here. He has no idea where all these shots are coming from. The 3002 has a general ID. You can see he's shooting into these bushes. So he knows True is in here somewhere. Look at him, he's just shooting in there. He may be shooting someone behind him. It's hard to tell. But he's just eating shots. For me, I might have pushed 2 and start putting heat through the 3002, but True's quite confident that he'll deal with this guy. Look at this. There's a nice green indicator, so he puts another one into it. And the 3002 has just been pretty much murderized. Here's that just very careful kind of idea. I probably would have pushed out of here and tried to get forward and do some more damage and all that stuff, but he's quite content to just let these guys bleed hit points to him without any kind of loss. Look at that, just very right to what he needs. Boom. Unfortunately, again, that turret armor on that thing's actually pretty good. When he hasn't pressed number 2 yet. Game's going okay for his team, although they are a bit outnumbered here. The enemy team might have done well to push in on him, get a little more aggressive, but there is a hold down T-32 and there is an IS-3 there, so maybe that's not the greatest idea either. Their M3Y is in the field. The TNH is here. Really, they're a little bit out-armored, even though True's team has bled some hit points here. The enemy team's a little bit out-armored over here. So I like this right here. He comes around, stays as far away as possible from the AT-7. All kinds of guys. Look at this. He takes a shot at the upper right side, at least from the direction he's looking. He knows he's got relatively soft armor right there. And he's putting heat through the AT-8, so he has pressed 2 to deal with that thing. Looks like he's maybe thinking about the T-28 HTC if somebody can get a light. Stays as far away as possible, just very carefully going around that. And fades back over this way. I think they end up seeing the T-28 HTC here in a minute. Chiri's pushing in, so that's going to get him some spots, potentially. Watch this. So we take a shot right into that weak spot. Boom. Aiming right for that turret thing. Just take it straight down at the guy's lower plate as he squares up to him and kills him off. I think he goes back to this bush to see if he can do a little more work. If anybody's going to show themselves, and then says, nope, let's push in. Scorpion's probably the next guy on the hit list if he can clear the Scorpion out. That means he can use this road, probably. He's carefully looking for that guy. Now watch this. He's going to notice the Scorpion. He gets lit. He's going to notice the Scorpion because somebody else is going to light the Scorpion. The Scorpion will have moved off. There goes the Scorpion. See it on the mini-map? And immediately True moves forward. He's like, yep, Scorpion's not there anymore. Or at least not as close as he was. So we'll come in here, and then we'll just start carefully taking on pieces of the guy's turret. Wait till we're reloaded. Patience. And the other, I would have been more aggressive and got in there, but he doesn't lose any hit points, right? He's being very careful with his hit points. He has other buddies, so if he can get that thing to shoot at somebody else, then he can pop out, get a shot, and not get a return shot just like that. Notice he just ignores it and moves on. The guy tucks up. He's going to have a hard time getting a shot with -6 depression. There's multiple tanks around it, ready to fire. He just ignores it and moves on. Goes to the next hit points. And here's the mobility I wasn't able to use. You can see now you got a nice fast tank. He's cruising along at 55, 57. He might have a turbo on this. I didn't see what his setup is because I don't think, like I said, he has field mods. What's he doing, 58? So that sounds like feels like a turbo, right? Because this thing's top speed is 55. And we'll cruise around here. We're going to find the Scorpion. Gets a little unlucky in terms of the rest of his team. I don't really know what in the heck is going on. They're all, I think, trying to kill the Scorpion. They all stopped back here. So he's the only guy that got this far forward. He finds the silly even 90 who thumps him a couple times. Puts another shot on him. I don't know if he didn't notice the driver was dead, but he didn't fix him. That was a little bit interesting. And then he runs into the M3Y. So he's going to do some good work against it. But the M3Y is also shooting its small gun, it looks like. Let's see what this next damage is he does to him. Puts another shot into that guy. Yeah, I think the M3Y has his fast-firing small 90 or whatever it is. So he sort of gets into that fast-firing DPM fight, and he just didn't have enough hit points to make it happen right there. He got close. The dude's down to 71, but he's at 49. I think there's a blind shot, so he's over 5,000 damage in this game. And I wanted to show that because of that bush thing. I hadn't seen that before. So your secret is out there, true. I don't know if it's his secret or I'm just stupid and didn't notice it. That's probably closer to the truth. And you were able to see the mobility of this thing, although on a smaller kind of map, its ability to get forward and start to help clean up and finish things out. And unfortunate that he tangled the M3Y there. I don't know, it might have been better just to back out and run, but he was cranking damage out. And this is the part of the game, you know, when you're winning by this much, is get forward and get your damage. And sometimes even if you die like that, at least you got a bunch of extra damage out of the thing right there. Cool. Let's wrap this thing up. Well, all right, that is it. Overall impression of the ShPTK-TVP Tier 8 Czech, first of its kind TD, premium TD, is that I would call it average to slightly above average. I think you're going to get a lot of people calling it the second coming, and it will have its moments where it can be absolutely dominant in terms of kicking DPG down range at the other team, but I think its limitations are enough that it's going to keep it from being too overpowered. Armor, people will say armor is irrelevant in this game, but it isn't really. And generally, you've got to have some armor in order to leverage all of the other capabilities a tank has to the maximum extent in the game. It is good. I would say it's average to slightly above average. That's my opinion. We'll see where it shakes out in terms of numbers. That will be interesting. Right now, it's number 1 on the strength of 120 battles by all of us deputies running around. So I'm pretty happy that I didn't drag the stats down too much. But I only chipped in 11 battles, so the other guys were able to cover it up. That's only because all the CCs are running around with it right now. A couple extra points on the marathon itself. It appears that it is actually 11 days if the 12th has any kind of playtime on it at all. 12 to 22 is going to give you 11 days of actual playtime, so that there seems to be an extra day built in there. Remember that if you are going to buy it, in order to buy levels, you have to first purchase the Improved Battle Pass. So you're going to be 2,500 gold into this thing no matter what you do if you plan on buying levels at the end to buy the tank. So that's going to be 2,500 plus whatever gold you end up throwing at it. So it's very interesting. What I don't know is if you're going to get a discount in the store based on the level you got to. That's one thing that's not really mentioned. If it is, I missed it. If you know the answer to that, chuck it down in the comments for everybody down there. So I think there's a couple small pieces of the pie on the actual mechanics of this thing that we're still not quite sure of. But overall, we've got enough information to go on as far as knowing what you're going to have to do to get this tank right here. Pretty cool tank. Now, what I don't know, before we go, let me see if there is a custom style for this thing. Do I have that? I don't think they put it in here yet. Yeah, I don't seem to see the 3D style for it. If it's there, I don't know. All right, cool. Thanks for checking out my video. I appreciate your support. If you're looking for ways to support the channel, you can find those down below in the description. that is all I've got. Let me know what you think. Are you going to go for it or not? Do you like this new style of marathon? I feel like it seems like it's a little bit easier, but I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. I almost feel like there's something I don't know about it. 4 per day is quite a bit of play, but it feels like a lot less than the other marathons, and maybe I'm just wrong on that one. We'll see. That's all I've got. We will see ya.